guys, how's it going? Welcome to our very first Tuesdays Are for Tips video. Today we're just going to be going over some basic safety razor fundamentals, what each individual component is called, how it's assembled, and just some quick tips for success if you're a beginner. If you're an expert wet shaver, this video probably isn't for you, but feel free to watch along. Here's your safety razor components, right? You have handle, obviously. This is just our standard 4-inch handle. You have what's called a cap or top cap. Threads, I started out with 1024 threads, and then early on I switched to 1032 threads, as that's more standard. And some folks like to swap out handles from other brands and use, the top cap and the base plate from this razor. So 1032 threads is a little bit more universal, allows people to use different handles. And then this is what's called as a plate or base plate. This is our standard -M plate. So this is a medium plate, and what determines that is really this geometry here. So your plate controls what's called as blade gap and also blade exposure. So that is a base plate. This is our newer H base plate, or high aggression base plate. This has a little bit more blade gap and slightly positive blade exposure. So that means when assembled, the blade actually protrudes just slightly beyond the protection of the top cap and the base plate. And then obviously these are the standard blades that we supply with our razors. You also now have the choice of another brand. It's a little bit less aggressive blade. Not all blades are created equal, believe it or not. So Feather, which is what these are known to be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit sharper. And then we also have some Persona blades, which tend to give a little bit milder shave. And it's actually, I've found ladies like using the Persona blades. My wife especially, she was having trouble with these blades. She switched to the Personas, and she's been smooth sailing ever since. So ladies, if you're interested in giving a safety razor a try, which I highly recommend, maybe opt for the Persona blades. And there's probably 20 or 30 different brand blades out there. Not all blades are created equal, so a lot of places sell a variety pack of blades where you can try out many different types and then kind of find which one is meant for you. So what I like about these Feather blades is once you're done with the blade, right, you unwrap it, you're done, you flip it over, and you can actually deposit it right here. It says for used blades. So you stick your used blade right in here, and that allows for safekeeping until you go to dispose of them, recycle them, however you choose to dispose of them. These are really the key advantage to a safety razor, because when you break it down, you're at about 20 cents a blade. And I usually get 4 or 5 shaves out of a blade before I have to switch, so much less expensive than your standard cartridge razor or multi-blade razor. So just the basic assembly, take your handle, your cap, your base plate, and I'll go ahead and I'll pull a blade out here. Be very careful when you can see also my son, he's a big Paw Patrol guy, so this morning I got a rubble tattoo. If you're wondering what's on my hand there, it's already starting to come off. But yeah, my son Landon loves Paw Patrol, so I got a tattoo this morning. So peel the blade open. Be very careful. Obviously this is the sharp portion here. These tabs out here are not as sharp, but they still have the capability of cutting you. You also want to try to avoid touching this area because a lot of these blades have a lubrication on them or some sort of coating, and you can actually rub that off and cause the blade to corrode a little bit more quickly. So pull the blade out, take your top cap here. So one reason I cut this away is it makes it a little bit easier for getting the blade in and out of the cap, right? So you can grab here and pull the blade in, or pull the blade out and put the blade in. All right, so then take whichever plate you're using. This is the dash M plate, so this is our standard plate here. Assemble it like so. Now you want to look, this is the correct orientation of the base plate and the top cap. Some people have struggled and actually try to assemble it this way, which, you know, it's perfectly understandable if you've never seen a safety razor before, or, you know, have never used one. So correct assembly here, sandwiches the blade in the middle, then take your handle, and I like to hold out here as I thread it on, and thread it all the way until it won't go any further. So now you can see the blade is secure in there. So what I was talking about, the geometry, the blade gap is actually the distance between where the base plate is and where the blade is. That vertical distance there, that's your blade gap. And blade exposure would be if you laid essentially a straight line across here. If the blade has positive exposure, it actually protrudes slightly out from the protection of the cap and the plate. Neutral exposure obviously lays, you know, in the same plane as the cap and the plate. And negative exposure, which gives you a much milder shave but more protection, sits, you know, behind that plane. So like I said, our M plate is what's known as neutral exposure, and then our H plate here actually gives about 0.03 of an inch positive exposure. So it's not much, but it is enough to provide a little bit more aggressive shave. One thing I like to do, so I have children, obviously. When I store this, even in my stand, I pull the blade out, and I store it with no blade in it. Again, I'll reuse this blade. I'll store it up high where my sons can't get to it, and then I will store the blade, or the razor, sorry, assembled like so. One thing I like to do is maybe don't thread it all the way tight. That lets a little bit more air in, lets it dry out a little bit easier. Even if, you know, when I was storing it with the blade in it, I would crack it loose and store it that way. That lets the blade dry. So the razor is 316 stainless. It will not rust unless you're under extreme conditions, maybe if you're shaving on the Titanic or something. But these, while they're called high stainless, they actually are not stainless. So blades will actually rust. So if you start seeing rust on your razor, you'll typically see it probably in this area on the cap, maybe on the plate. That's actually rust from your blade, not from the razor itself. So again, I store it cracked loose. Since I have kids, I don't store it with the blade in it, because I would hate to have to cross that bridge. So yeah, that's the basics of your safety razor. We'll go into more depth of geometry and, you know, the exposure and the blade gap, maybe on a future video. But to start everyone off, that's the basics of your safety razor. Whether you buy our brand or other brands, they pretty much all operate the same way. So yeah, look for more videos from us in the future. We appreciate all your support, and continue to check us out here on YouTube, on Instagram, Facebook. I do my best to respond, and I think I do a pretty good job of responding to all my customers. So feel free, email's the best way to reach me. It's jyates@yatesprecision.com. I know some people will vouch for me that I tend to get back quickly and and with the best information I can. So please feel free to reach out. I love talking to everyone out there, our supporters. So yeah, thank you, and look for more videos from us. We're looking forward to growing this YouTube channel. So follow me on Instagram, Facebook at Yates Precision. Follow my wife on Instagram. She's behind all the marketing and the nice photos. She is Ash_Yates Precision on Instagram. Other than that, have a good day, and we'll see you soon.